Please join me in 3 recitations. 南无阿弥陀佛，南无阿弥陀佛，南无阿弥陀佛. Please release your palms. Today, I would like to share with you a topic on transcendental deliverance, with specific focus on transcendental deliverance through Amitabha recitation. In the state of Bardo, that means the state of existence between 2 lives or the period between death and rebirth, one has a very keen awareness that makes one particularly receptive to get help from one's family. Since a person in such a state is no longer constrained by a physical body, his mind follows instructions more easily. Great benefits can flow if we can guide him along with various virtuous thoughts. The most favorable time to help the deceased is during the 49 days of Bardo, especially the first 21 days. In these first 3 weeks, the deceased has a relatively strong connection with the life he knew before death, and is therefore more receptive to the family's help. The most effective way of transcendental deliverance for the deceased is to recite Namo Amitabha Buddha or Namo Amitofo. We pray for our loved ones with true love and sincerity. Just as fire burns and water quenches thirst, Amitabha Buddha appears as soon as he is called. When Namo Amitabha Buddha or Namo Amitofo is invoked, Amitabha Buddha's immense light immediately pervades the body and mind of the deceased, who will be completely purified and liberated from the confused and painful state he is in. He is then endowed with profound and lasting peace and is received into the Western land of bliss. When we think of our late loved ones and mention their names, we send our love to them by reciting Namo Amitofo or Namo Amitabha Buddha as many times as we wish. The consciousness of the departed can perceive our thoughts without any impediment and regardless of what language is used. Therefore, the person instructing the deceased must be sincere and focused, instead of just reading the text of the rite from the Rite of Transcendental Deliverance booklet. This is of utmost importance. At the same time, the deceased is living in the reality of death and is more able to discern the truth of Amitabha deliverance than we are. Transcendental deliverance of the departed is not limited to 49 days after death. Even if the person we want to help passed away 100 years ago, it is still useful to perform the rite of transcendental deliverance through Amitabha recitation. It is never too late to help. Now let's take a look at the deliverance of the dead through Amitabha recitation. Where will we go at the end of this life? We can discuss this matter in 3 aspects. First, in accord with heavy karma. Second, in accord with our habitual behavior. And third, in accord with our mind. These are known as the 3 tendency forces at the near end of life. In accord with heavy karma, this is the heaviest karma that a person has accumulated in this life, whether it is good or evil. Usually, we will be dragged by this heavy karma to our next destiny for the appropriate learning. It tends to fall on the heavier side first, just like a balance. This is the meaning of in accord with heavy karma. In accord with our habitual behavior. In this lifetime, a person has not performed any extraordinary good acts or committed very heavy offenses, but he is inclined to habitual behavior. In this case, Those habit energies will set the stage for his next incarnation. In accord with our mind, in the absence of heavy good or bad karma, no particular habitual behavior, however, at the near end of his life, a person thinks of a kind of realm. For instance, listening to the Buddha's name or reciting it, he will be reborn in the Buddha's Pure Land and leave the 6 realms of reincarnation. If he thinks of wholesome matters at the near end of his life, he will follow what he thinks and receive the respective wholesome incarnation, perhaps as a celestial being or human again. If he is strongly attached to his family members at the near end of his life, he tends to become a member of that family again. If there is a female family member in labor or a dying relative, he may be reborn as a watchdog or a pet cat. So the state of mind near the end of life is very important and can be frightening as well. Within a single thought, we can ascend to heaven or descend to hell. Human body or animal body can be determined in the flesh. Understanding the three tendency forces at the near end of life, we should make Amitabha recitation a priority and form a habit of reciting Amitabha's name in the present lifetime. Regardless of our rebirth being in accord with heavy karma, in accord with our habitual behavior, or in accord with our mind, we do not abandon Namo Amitofo. As long as we are practitioners of Amitabha recitation in this lifetime, Amitabha will appear at the near end of our life and receive us. Because of his great kindness and great compassion, he will never abandon us. Due to his great paranormal powers, Amitabha Buddha knows when and under what circumstances we will die. So whether we are unable to recite or not, for example, we may be in a coma, may have a stroke, or under sedation, he knows that all. Amitabha Buddha will protect us and bless us. So it is our responsibility to recite Amitabha's name now, in order to make Amitabha recitation our heavy karma and our habit. If we can recite Amitabha's name near the end of life, we are of course single-minded in Amitabha recitation. Even if we are in a coma due to past karmic offenses, we should be at ease. Our consciousness is still active, though our organs are in a coma. Our vision is very clear when Amitabha Buddha comes to receive us. Due to serious illness, if we cannot recite Amitabha's name near the end of life, we understand that Amitabha Buddha will come to receive us when the time comes. Thus, our mind will be pacified, stable, and comfortable. We will not be panicky and worry about where we might go. Owing to the fact that Amitabha's name and his light are one entity, our body is illuminated with light when we recite Amitabha's name. If we recite for hell beings or for some other people, this light will illuminate them. Wherever the light goes, it can eliminate catastrophes, clear karmic obstructions, increase fortune and wisdom, and in that way, deliver our ancestors. So, if we can sincerely recite Amitabha's name, we can, through merit dedication, deliver the dead, create positive and smooth surgical results, or help in overcoming all kinds of calamities with perfect and complete outcomes. In the Kisagaba Sutra, when a person has not had any chance to learn Buddhism in his life and committed many offenses under evil karmic circumstances, he is advised to recite Amitabha's name near the end of life. If he repents and recites Namo Amitofo even one time, he is liberated from the 3 wretched realms and will not have any retribution due to his past karma. If that person recites Amitabha's name with aspiration for rebirth, he can be reborn in the land of bliss immediately, without further reincarnation in the three domains and six realms. It is not because of his virtues accumulated in this lifetime, nor the result of zealous cultivation, but it is the functional power of Amitabha's name. His name is called the great name of 10,000 virtues. 10,000 here is not a number, but expresses the splendor of the teaching. It expresses the perfect, complete, transcendent merit and virtues inherent in Amitabha's name, which includes the 3 canons and the 12 divisions. Whoever recites this name can attain 10,000 virtues and clear all karmic obstructions. We are practitioners of Amitabha recitation. We recite Amitabha's name every day. This means we always transcendentally deliver the dead, not necessarily only in Qingming or July or Zhongyuan. Due to the power of Amitabha's merit and virtues, our ancestors are automatically delivered if we recite Amitabha's name. In addition, our children and grandchildren are protected, and karmic conflicts with debtors and enemies will be resolved. It is because debtors and enemies who follow us life after life can hear Amitabha's name. If they respect and admire our practice of Amitabha recitation, Buddha's light will automatically brighten their minds, and they will be reborn in the land of bliss. So Amitabha reciters are not required to transcendentally deliver the dead in separate practices. Of course, we can do so if we so desire. In our regular morning and evening service sessions, we keep reciting Namo Amitofo, Namo Amitofo, Namo Amitofo. It is not necessary to recite sutras or hold dharani and other practices. It doesn't matter how long our regular session is, or if we recite just once. At the end, we recite the verse of dedication as follows. May the resulting merits be distributed to all beings without discrimination. May all of us aspire to attain perfect enlightenment and to be reborn in the land of peace and joy. It will naturally deliver our ancestors. If Amitabha reciters do not recite the verse of dedication, can they enjoy the benefits of merit dedications to their ancestors, relatives in past life, debtors and enemies? Yes. It is the ordinary functional power of Amitabha recitation that it can naturally deliver ancestors, protect children and grandchildren, and dissolve conflicts with our enemies and debtors. It is not particularly necessary to dedicate merits to our ancestors, children, and grandchildren. Those who aspire to rebirth in the land of bliss and have no doubts concerning Amitabha's deliverance will be 100% reborn under any circumstances. Those aspirants to rebirth in the land of bliss who recite Amitabha's name exclusively will be automatically embraced and protected by Amitabha. He is their guardian at the near end of their life, so they are assured of rebirth. Those who have no faith and aspiration and no recitation practice in this lifetime can still be assured of rebirth if they recite Amitabha's name at the near end of their life. As they are near the end of their lives, their bodies will wither. When the body in their next life is formed, it will be enveloped in Amitabha's infinite light. Moreover, though they may be in a coma or their tongues are numb, their minds and consciousness are still clear. If someone helps them by reciting Amitabha's name to facilitate their acceptance of Amitabha's deliverance, they will be 100% assured of rebirth as well. This is where we come in. Through the rite of transcendental deliverance, our ancestors and deceased loved ones will hear about Amitabha Buddha's unconditional deliverance and be reborn in the land of ultimate bliss, if and when their karmic conditions ripen. That's why we will invite them to recite Amitabha's name with us during the ritual. Pure Land Buddhism is the easiest to practice, but most splendid in rewards. The last thought at the end of our life is very important. So how do we deal with those reaching the end of their lives? Generally speaking, we can bathe them and change them into clean clothing if possible. If it's not possible, it is important not to move them, but to simply explain Amitabha's deliverance and assist them in recitation. There are 2 points that we need to include in our speech to those at the near end of their life. First, let them know there is no peace, but only suffering in the Saha world. We do this to encourage him to release his attachment to this world. Secondly, describe the splendor of the land of bliss in order to arouse his aspiration for rebirth there. And if you say, oh, I don't know how to do that, you can use the discourses in the Rite of Transcendental Deliverance, which we just did. There is a full coverage and description of the splendor of the land of bliss and Amitabha's deliverance. You can download a copy or ask for a paper copy if you haven't done so. And then after we describe the splendor of the land of bliss, we will invite them to recite Namo Amitofo or Namo Amitabha Buddha together with us. The Buddha will appear this time. Moreover, due to his aspiration for rebirth in the land of bliss, he will be received by Amitabha Buddha. In conclusion, when dealing with those near death, firstly, don't move them. Secondly, speak and advise them to believe in Amitabha's deliverance. Thirdly, recite Amitabha's name together with them. It is known as the 3 important tasks at the near end of life. Furthermore, the dependents and relatives should put aside trivial matters if possible and devote more time to reciting Amitabha's name loudly and sincerely for 8 to 24 hours after his last breath. Amitabha will emit great compassionate light to protect and comfort the dead. In so doing, he will remove his karmic offenses, nurture his virtuous roots, liberate him from reincarnation within the 6 realms, and receive him in the pure and peaceful land of bliss. After that, you can clean his body and change his clothes, or decorate the Buddha hall, or handle other matters. The main function of assisted recitation is a reliance on Amitabha's deliverance. It is because Amitabha Buddha will appear immediately in response to our recitation. So the purposes of assisted recitation are, first, to lead the dying person to recite Amitabha's name. Second, to invite Amitabha to appear and deliver the dying person. This is for the dying person who cannot recite to be reborn in the land of bliss. With his last breath, he will transform to a transitional body called Bado. If his good karma is not great or if his bad karma is not heavy, he will most likely end up in the Bado state. A person normally cannot see the Buddha with his mortal eyes, but with his transitional body, he can see the Buddha easily. Amitabha reciters are always within Amitabha's light, so Amitabha Buddha will appear and receive them at the near end of their lives. It doesn't matter whether they have assisted recitation or not, or whether the causal conditions are favorable or not. They are assured of rebirth in the land of bliss. During assisted recitation, we need not contemplate Amitabha Buddha emitting light in order to increase its effect. Absolutely not necessary. Amitabha Buddha knows what the dying needs much better than we do. It is enough for us just to recite Amitabha's name single-mindedly and sincerely. At the near end of one's life, if a person comes across someone who tells him about Amitabha's deliverance and the assisted Amitabha recitation, his chance to attain rebirth is very high, unless he is attached in his mind, or he is not aware of the suffering of reincarnation, or does not know the benefits of rebirth. If he is heavily attached to some unfulfilled wishes in the world, or entangled with love and hatred, grace and regret, etc., he may not attain rebirth at that moment. When a sentient being is near his end of life, whether he has come across any Buddhist teachings before or not, if he can hear the principle of Amitabha's deliverance, he will believe in Amitabha's deliverance. In this respect, he should try not to be attached to the worldly matters, including his family members. Even if he sees anything, like his ancestors approaching, he should not get close to them. Only when he sees Amitabha appearing should he step on and sit in the lotus altar. Tell him about that, and then recite Namo Amitofo beside him, and let him recite too. If he aspires to be reborn in the land of bliss in his mind and recites Amitabha's name, he will certainly attain rebirth at that time. A dying person who realizes the great love of Amitabha will have an unexpected change in his spiritual mind. First, he will let go of his body and the worldly matters without falling into a panic and fear of death anymore. Moreover, his mind will suddenly become calm and peaceful, filled with forgiveness, love, and grace. His mind is unlocked and pacified, has no more anxiety and struggle with life and death, but will be in a state of tranquility and peace. His face thus will brighten up with relieved and normal looks. When he takes his last breath under this state of mind, his spirit will be received by Amitabha Buddha at the same time, and he will attain rebirth in Amitabha's Pure Land. According to the doctrinal teaching of Master Chandal, the direct course of rebirth is to recite Namo Amitofo exclusively. If we exclusively recite Namo Amitofo now, and we do not change our mind, we are certain to be reborn in the land of bliss. It doesn't matter whether we may be in a coma or not at the near end of our life. It doesn't matter if our body has pain or not, or whether we can recite his name or not. In other words, how we are at the near end of our life is not a concern, but how we are at the present moment is counted. If we exclusively recite Namo Amitofo at present, then Amitabha's light will continue to protect us from now on without forsaking us or forgetting us. By the last hours of death, Amitabha's light will appear to deliver us. Even if we are in a coma, Amitabha can deliver us without any obstacles. Our responsibility is to recite Amitabha's name at the present time. By the near end of our life, when Amitabha Buddha comes to receive us, if we can recite his name, just do it. If we cannot, it doesn't matter. Say just in case of a coma, our sensual organs are failing, but our consciousness is not. So when Amitabha comes to receive us, we know it in clarity. The pain in our body will not hold us back from reciting Amitabha's name. We know that in our mind, that Amitabha Buddha will come to just like an infant who knows without any mistake that his mom will come to feed him or change his diaper at the right time. And besides, we should not have any doubts, such as asking questions like, will I be reborn if affliction and miscellaneous thoughts entangle my recitation of Amitabha's name? Okay, for sure we can still be reborn in the land of bliss, because Amitabha promised that. Rebirth by Amitabha recitation is not determined also by the number of recitation. It doesn't matter how many times you recite, how heavy your karmic offenses is, how proficient your capacity is, how much you can clear your miscellaneous thought, or how pure your mind is. Rebirth relies entirely on the strength of Amitabha Buddha's power, the vow power, entirely on the light, the divine power of merits and virtues generated by his great name, with which every recitation we utter turns into the primary cause of rebirth, and provides all the essential merits and virtues necessary for rebirth. Thus, regardless of aptitude, virtue, and proficiency, once we exclusively recite Amitabha's name, the Buddha and the sages will turn up unsolicited to receive us for rebirth at the point of death. Amitabha reciters should have absolute faith in the words that the Buddha says. Amitabha Buddha tells us, "You recite my name and I deliver you. Your responsibility is to recite, and delivering you to the land of bliss is my responsibility." Just recite the name. Don't worry about anything. We must absolutely believe that Amitabha Buddha will receive us under any circumstances at the end of our life, so that we can be reborn in the land of bliss, just like in any ordinary situations. As long as we aspire to be reborn in the land of bliss and are single-minded in reciting Amitabha's name, Amitabha Buddha will come to receive us when the time comes. From now on until the near end of our life, Amitabha Buddha will never abandon us, forget us, or despise us for even 1 minute or 1 second. It doesn't matter if we're clear in mind or in a coma at the near end of our life. Amitabha Buddha will come, as usual, to receive us. The name Namo Amitofo consists of the meaning of all kinds of light. When Shakyamuni Buddha explains the name of Amitabha Buddha, he says, "The Buddha's light shines boundlessly and without hindrance over all the worlds of the 10 directions. It is for this reason that he is called Amitabha." What is the function of Amitabha's light? It can naturally embrace, protect, and deliver those who recite his name. Amitabha Buddha embraces sentient beings with his light without being impeded. It means it is not impeded by karma, greed, and hatred, false and miscellaneous thoughts of the Amitabha reciters. So any Amitabha reciter, whether good or evil, sagely or ordinary, whether his mind is pure or not, will not be blocked by his karmic creditors or prevented from Amitabha's deliverance. It is our responsibility to recite Amitabha's name in the present lifetime, and Amitabha is responsible for receiving us to the land of bliss. So those who recite Amitabha's name throughout their lifetime will see the Buddha appear before them without fail when they approach the end of their life. We don't need to worry about or overthink the circumstances under which we die, because it is by nature Amitabha Buddha will come and receive us. Because of his great compassion and great wisdom, Amitabha knows what karma we have and what happens at the near end of our life. So when the time comes, he will be responsible for receiving us to the land of bliss. If a person exclusively recites Amitabha's name in his present life and has the mind of aspiration to be reborn in the land of bliss, he will see Amitabha appearing at the time close to death. The Buddha will directly receive him for rebirth in the land of bliss without going through the trial by King Yama. Amitabha reciters who believe in and accept Amitabha's deliverance in the course of the present life, or just at the last moment before death, will be reborn in the land of bliss immediately without going through a transitional state. And if they do go through the transitional state, that means they have not been reborn yet. The reason why they are not reborn is either that they did not believe in Amitabha's deliverance or did not accept Amitabha's deliverance before the end of their life, or that they did not exclusively recite Amitabha's name without interruption. Otherwise, they don't need to go through this transitional state. If they have to go through the transitional state, does it mean that Amitabha Buddha refuses to deliver them? No, it doesn't. Amitabha Buddha delivers sentient beings in the 10 directions, including those in transitional state. then how can the transitional state beings have the causal conditions to be delivered by Amitabha Buddha? In that case, it depends on those who are alive to tell him the teaching of Amitabha's deliverance and to recite Amitabha's name beside him so that he can hear it. Also, those alive should ask the deceased to recite Amitabha's name with him together. In this way, he can still be reborn in the land of bliss. A family member that has just passed away in every thought wishes his surviving kin to contribute merits and virtues to him so that he can get away from the darkness, fear, and sufferings he is experiencing. Therefore, we have to offer them with vegetarian food and do not kill living beings in 7 sevens or 49 days. It's much better if the surviving kin can also stop eating meat and recite Amitabha's name within these 49 days. But most important of all, it is important that we invite our deceased loved ones to recite Amitabha's names with us together, to tell them about Amitabha's unconditional deliverance. And hopefully through the recitation, it will arouse their aspiration to be reborn in the land of bliss. This is all the time we have today for our sharing. So let us join palms and recite Amitabha's name 3 times together. Namo Ami Tofo. Namo Ami Tofo. Namo Ami Tofo. Please release your palms.